welcome to Mailbox for Battlefield 4. I thought I'd try this idea out. I put it out on Twitter a couple of weeks ago and the response was fairly positive, so I thought I'd try this episode out, see how things go, see if you guys like the idea. Basically, you can submit your questions to me about Battlefield. In fact, do you know what? It doesn't have to be just about Battlefield. It can be about gaming or consoles, PCs, things like that. Really anything to do with gaming in general, and I'll just give my opinion on the questions that you ask me. I think probably the easiest way to submit questions is probably just to leave a comment on the video. So I think that's probably the format that we'll go for to start off with. So if you have a question that you want to ask me in sort of the next episode, then just leave it in the comments down below, or upvote a comment that you want answered, or something like that, and then we'll go forward from there. So let's kick this episode off. The first question comes today from Jesper, or Battlefield Daily, or BF Daily on Twitter as you might better know him, and he had this to ask. According to the premium calendar on Battlefield.com, the final expansion pack for BF4 will be released in the summer of 2014. The premium content for BF3 kept coming for nearly 1 year more, so do you think that this means we'll see a new game just 1 year after the release of Battlefield 4? Note that they now also have the new DICE LA studio. Now I think this is a really good question to start the episode because there are so many different ways that we can look at this. The premium aspect of Battlefield 4 has barely gotten rolling yet. We've only had the release of Second Assault on the Xbox One for DLC purposes, and really sort of the premium add-ons haven't really kicked in yet, so it's still in its infancy. The first way that you could look at it is that those dates for the final DLCs are provisional. They're simply there to say, look, we're aiming to get it ready by this point, but there's no sort of set date there. There's no sort of like June the 23rd or August the 25th or something like that. It's really not set in stone yet, so I think from that point of view, they may just sort of be placeholders. The second way that we could look at it, and probably something that might come true in the future whether we really like it or not, is that EA and DICE are thinking about annualising the Battlefield franchise. With those dates there only leading up to summer 2014, the releases for Battlefield tend to be around the October-November time of the year, so that would leave enough time between the end of the game and the start of a new game to sort of take place and a build-up can sort of commence. If they were too close together, it would become like Call of Duty and you'd still be playing the same game when the one comes out next year. So it is possible that the annualisation could happen. But in the last few days, however, EA has actually played down those rumours that annualisation could actually occur, saying that obviously to develop Battlefield it takes 2 years, even if they do have the DICE LA studio. It still takes that long to actually sort of progress the engine and then build the core features and gameplay on top of that, and obviously to try and make it somewhat different to the game beforehand. So I think it's unlikely that we're going to see an annualisation of Battlefield 4, and I think it really could actually hurt the game because it will just become lazy like it is with Call of Duty at the moment, where we won't see the increment that we want to see for the next game, and I think we'll just become disappointed. So, moving on to question number 2 for this episode, we have a tweet courtesy of Ratimus Prime, and he's asking, with the new gen consoles, do you think we will ever see cross-platform play in the Battlefield series, i.e. PC versus PS4 versus Xbox One? I'm pretty much going to go out of my way here and categorically say no, this is not going to happen for the Battlefield series. There are plenty of reasons why. First of all, it's just not practical. It takes a lot of coding, a lot of server architecture, and a lot of time and effort to actually make cross-platform play work. Evidence of that is Portal 2. You were able to play it on the PS3 and the PC at the same time, so you could play with somebody on the PC while you were playing on the PS4. Now it was actually really good, but it took a lot of time and effort to actually implement that. Secondly, gameplay aspects of console and PC are much different in Battlefield 4, even if you don't think they actually are. With the next gen consoles, of course you can play 64 players and things like that, and you can play different game modes, different objectives, Conquest Large, all these different things that bring it in line with PC. But still, I think, if you put console players in the same server as PC players, the PC players will always come out on top. The reason being the precision of a controller versus the precision of a mouse and keyboard. You cannot beat a mouse for precision. It's just much easier to use. You can have different sensitivities. You don't have to just sort of wait for the thumbstick to go to the edge so that you can turn it round. You can flick your mouse and it will turn 180, 360 degrees before the console guy even starts to move towards the thumbstick. So in terms of that, I think it would just be unfair to put console players in the same server as PC players. And the third reason I think this is probably not going to happen is that you have dedicated ecosystems on consoles, i.e. you've got Xbox Live and you've got the PlayStation Network so that you can play online on those consoles. Whereas on PC, you don't have one. Well, you have Steam if you want to use that, or you have Origin, but both of those are free. Whereas on console, you actually have to pay to play online now, on both consoles, not just on Xbox side anymore. You have to pay to play online on the PS4 as well. And in that respect, I don't really think Sony or Microsoft are really up to striking a deal with EA so that they can combine their ecosystems into a PC ecosystem, where PC guys don't have to pay for anything, and guys that are on console do have to pay something. I'm pretty much thinking that Sony and Microsoft would probably want some sort of cut coming out of that, so that's probably the main reason why this wouldn't happen. Just guys coming together. When you've got Sony, Microsoft and EA, I don't think there would ever be a deal there that would work for everybody. And moving on to the final question of this episode, it comes courtesy of Ben Morrow on Twitter, and he has this to say. Do you think BF4 is different enough from BF3 to keep people's interest until the next Battlefield or Star Wars Battlefront? Now, I think this is a question that was pretty much answered before Battlefield 4 actually came out as to whether it was going to be Battlefield 3.5. I have to say they are visually quite similar, and in gameplay style they are very similar as well. In terms of content, well, you've got Second Assault, which is basically a cop-out DLC because they get to make 4 maps that they only made 2 years ago, reinvent them and put them back into the game. All the weapons that pretty much we're using so far were in Battlefield 3, so it doesn't really require that much development either. So in terms of what the games actually are, I think they are very similar. But for me, because I like the Battlefield series and I like to play those games, it's not really an issue because it is Battlefield, and that's the game that I've played for nearly 4 years now, back from Bad Company 2 when I first started to get involved in the series. It's what I love. It's my favourite FPS shooter. In fact, it's probably my favourite sort of gaming series. So it's not something that I'm about to put down. In terms of whether I think it will keep me interested until Star Wars Battlefront comes out, I think that's a bit of a different issue. I'm really looking forward to Star Wars Battlefront, but I think if you like Star Wars, you're going to buy the game. It's like Apple. If they bring out a new iPhone, and you've got the old one, and you like Apple, you're probably going to go and buy the new iPhone. It's like a brand. You're going to go and buy it because it's their new product. And so I don't think you can really compare Battlefield 4 in saying, is it going to bridge the gap? Because they are ultimately different things. So really it's personal preference when it comes to that game. And that just about brings the end to my first episode of Battlefield Mailbox. Now, as I said at the start of this video, if you want your question answered, then make sure you do leave it in the comment section down below. I'll be picking 3 more questions for the next episode. But if you enjoyed this one, please do leave a like, and as I say, comments are always appreciated. But until next time, my name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.